The air hung heavy with the stench of fear and expensive cologne. A single flickering lamp illuminated the opulent office, casting long, distorted shadows across the mahogany desk. Blood. So much blood it pooled on the polished surface, reflecting the dim light like a grotesque halo. The victim, a man of power and influence, lay sprawled in his leather chair, a single bullet hole marring his temple. The silence was shattered by the arrival of sirens, their wails echoing through the night. Soon the room was swarming with uniformed officers, their faces grim, their movements hurried yet strangely detached. It was a scene they knew all too well, another night, another casualty in the endless war for power and control. This city devoured its own. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoed from the hallway. A tall, imposing figure emerged from the shadows, his face obscured by the brim of a fedora. He moved with a predator's grace, his eyes scanning the room, absorbing every detail, every nuance of the gruesome tableau. This was Detective Malik, a man forged in the crucible of the city's darkness. Malik. A whisper, a rumor on the streets. His name carried weight, a name that invoked both fear and respect in equal measure. Some called him a savior, others a bringer of chaos. To some, he was a guardian angel, to others a harbinger of doom. He walked the line between justice and vengeance, a solitary figure haunted by a past he couldn't outrun. Each step he took was heavy with the weight of his own history, a history that was as dark and twisted as the alleys he patrolled. His eyes, sharp and cold as glacial ice, settled on the dead man. Those eyes had seen too much, had witnessed the depths of human depravity and the heights of human courage. He knew this man, knew the circles he moved in, the secrets he kept buried deep. Secrets that were now spilling out one by one like a Pandora's box that had been forced open.
Another puppet cut down, Malik muttered, his voice a low growl. The city was full of puppets, each one dancing to the tune of unseen puppet masters. He knelt beside the body, his long fingers gently probing the man's lifeless hand. The skin was still warm, the life recently extinguished. The gun, a pearl-handled revolver, lay loosely in his grip. It was an elegant weapon, too elegant for a common thug. A staged suicide, perhaps, too neat, too convenient. The scene was almost too perfect, as if someone had gone to great lengths to make it look like an accident. Malik had seen it all before, the same patterns, the same mistakes. He was tired, but he couldn't afford to rest. Not yet.
"Detective, we have a witness," a young officer called out, his voice tight with nervous energy. The officer's eyes darted around, betraying his inexperience. "Says she saw someone fleeing the scene just minutes ago." A shadowy figure moving with purpose, disappearing into the night.
Malik rose, his gaze fixed on the shattered window at the far end of the office. The glass fragments sparkled like stars against the dark backdrop of the city. The faint scent of rain and something else, something metallic, lingered in the air. It was a smell he knew all too well, the smell of blood and gunpowder. He knew this city, knew its rhythm, its secrets. Every corner, every shadow held a story, and Malik had heard them all. This was no random act of violence. This was a carefully orchestrated execution. Someone had gone to great lengths to ensure this man's silence. "Bring her in," Malik commanded, his voice brooking no argument. He needed answers, and he needed them now. "And find me everything you can on our friend here, every detail, every connection, every hidden truth. Who he talked to, where he went, who profited from his demise. The answers were out there, hidden in the shadows. Someone wanted him silenced. I aim to find out why, and when I do, there will be a reckoning. The city would tremble, and the shadows would reveal their secrets."
The witness, a young woman with fear etched into every line of her face, could offer little help. Her eyes darted around the room as if the shadows themselves held the answers she was too terrified to speak. Every word she uttered was laced with hesitation, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she feared the very air might betray her. She'd seen a fleeting glimpse of a dark figure, tall and imposing, disappearing into the night. The memory of that shadow haunted her, a specter that loomed large in her mind, making her shiver with dread. It was a figure that seemed to blend into the darkness, becoming one with the night, leaving behind an aura of menace that was impossible to shake off. Malik listened patiently. his intuition telling him there was more to her story than she was letting on. He could sense the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air, the tension palpable. Her reluctance was a puzzle, one that he was determined to solve piece by piece. He knew that beneath her fear lay the key to unraveling the mystery that had brought them together. But he knew better than to push too hard, not yet. He needed her trust, and that would take time. He chose his questions carefully, each one a step closer to the truth, but always mindful of the fragile state she was in. He could see the battle raging within her, the struggle between fear and the need to unburden herself.
Back at his desk, a flickering lamp casting long shadows across the cluttered space, Malik felt the weight of the case pressing down on him. The dim light created an atmosphere of foreboding, the shadows dancing on the walls like ghosts from his past. His desk was a chaotic mess of papers and files, each one a piece of the puzzle he was trying to solve. Malik delved into the dead man's life, sifting through the remnants of a story that had ended in tragedy. The more he uncovered, the more he realized he was dealing with a viper's nest of corruption and deceit. Each document he read, each piece of evidence he examined, painted a picture of a man entangled in a web of lies and betrayal. The more he uncovered, the more he realized he was dealing with a viper's nest of corruption and deceit. The connections were intricate, the players numerous, and the stakes incredibly high. It was a labyrinth of power and greed, where every turn revealed another layer of treachery. The deeper he dug, the more dangerous the game became. Politicians, businessmen, even members of his own department, all connected to the victim in some way. It was a network of influence and manipulation, where alliances were forged in the shadows and deals were made behind closed doors. The victim had been a pawn in a much larger game, one that Malik was only beginning to understand. And then, a name jumped out from the files, a name that sent a chill down his spine. Antonov. It was a name that carried with it a history of violence and fear, a name that had haunted him for years. The sight of it brought back memories he had tried to bury, memories of a time when he had been powerless to stop the horrors that unfolded. The name was like a ghost from his past, a phantom he thought he'd buried long ago. It was a reminder of a time when he had been a different man, a time when the lines between right and wrong had been blurred by the darkness that surrounded him. Antonov was a specter that had haunted his dreams, a shadow that had loomed over his life, refusing to let go. Antonov was a powerful figure in the city's underworld, a man who operated in the shadows, pulling strings, eliminating threats. He was a master of manipulation, a puppet master who controlled the fates of those around him with ruthless efficiency. His influence was far-reaching, his power absolute, and his name was spoken in hushed tones, a symbol of fear and respect, a man who, years ago, had been connected to Malik's father's murder. The memory of that night was etched into Malik's mind, a scar that had never fully healed. It was a night of blood and betrayal, a night that had changed his life forever. The pain of that loss had driven him, fueled his quest for justice, and now it seemed the past was coming back to haunt him. The pieces were starting to fall into place, forming a picture that was both horrifying and strangely familiar. It was a mosaic of corruption and violence, a tapestry woven with threads of deceit and betrayal. Each new discovery brought him closer to the truth, but also deeper into a world of danger and intrigue. The picture that was emerging was one of a city in the grip of a powerful and malevolent force. Malik could feel it in his gut, a deep primal instinct that told him he was on the right track. It was a feeling that had guided him through countless cases, a sixth sense that had never failed him. He knew that he was close, that the answers he sought were within his grasp. But he also knew that the closer he got, the more dangerous the game would become. But the closer he got to the truth, the more he realized that some secrets were best left buried. There were forces at play that were far more powerful than he had imagined, forces that would stop at nothing to protect their interests. The truth was a dangerous thing, a weapon that could destroy lives and topple empires. And as Malik delved deeper into the darkness, he knew that he was walking a fine line between justice and oblivion.
The investigation was like navigating a minefield, every step fraught with danger. Malik had to be cautious, every move calculated, every decision weighed against the potential consequences. The city was a labyrinth of deceit and peril, and one wrong step could mean the end. Malik found himself facing down threats from all sides. It wasn't just the criminals he had to worry about, it was the very system that was supposed to protect him. Friends turned into foes, and allies became adversaries in the blink of an eye. Corrupt cops on his tail, shadowy figures lurking in dark alleys, and always the spectre of Antonov looming large. Antonov, the puppet master, pulling the strings from the shadows, his influence reaching into every corner of the city. Malik knew that taking him down would be no small feat. The city had a way of squeezing the life out of those who dared to challenge its order. It was a place where hope was a rare commodity and despair was the currency of the streets. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on Malik, but he refused to be crushed by it. He had a close call one rainy night, ambushed in a deserted warehouse district. The rain poured down in sheets, turning the ground into a slick, treacherous surface. Malik's heart pounded in his chest as he navigated the narrow alleys, every sense on high alert. Two men, their faces hidden behind ski masks, emerged from the shadows, guns drawn. Their intentions were clear, and Malik knew he had to act fast. The tension was palpable, the air thick with the promise of violence. The air cracked with gunfire as Malik dove for cover, his own weapon spitting fire in return. The sound was deafening, echoing off the walls of the warehouse. He could feel the heat of the bullets as they whizzed past him, each one a reminder of how close he was to death. He took down one assailant, the other fleeing into the labyrinthine maze of crates and machinery. The chase was on, and Malik's adrenaline surged as he pursued his quarry through the industrial wasteland. He couldn't let him get away. Too much was at stake. He knew they wouldn't stop, not until he was silenced permanently. The forces arrayed against him were relentless. Their determination matched only by Malik's own resolve. He had to stay one step ahead, always moving, always vigilant. But fear was a luxury Malik couldn't afford. He had to push it aside, bury it deep within himself. There was no room for hesitation, no time for doubt. Every second counted, and he had to make each one count. He was driven by something deeper, a burning need for justice, for vengeance, for the truth that had been stolen from him years ago. The memories of that fateful night haunted him, fueling his determination to see this through to the end. The city might try to break him, but Malik was already broken. He had been shattered by the loss, by the betrayal, by the weight of the secrets he carried. But in that brokenness he found a strength he never knew he had. He was a shard of glass in the darkness, reflecting their ugliness back at them. Each cut, each scar was a testament to his resilience, a reminder that he was still standing, still fighting. He pressed on, his investigation leading him deeper into the city's underbelly, into a world of secrets and lies where power was the only currency that mattered. The deeper he went, the more he uncovered, each revelation more shocking than the last. And he was getting closer. He could feel it. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and the picture they formed was one of corruption and deceit on a scale he had never imagined. He was a hair's breadth away from uncovering the truth, a truth that would shake the city to its core. The final piece was within his grasp, and he knew that once he had it, there would be no turning back. The walls were closing in, but Malik was ready to break through.